We don't have Megan today, and I was thinking, I think we should try and call her. She's probably.
Oh, really?
Do you know where she is? Do you know what?
I saw the email. I don't know what it is.
She is at Blog World Expo.
Oh, Blog World, yeah.
Yeah, and have you ever been down there? Have you ever done Blog World? It's a good show. I'm actually quite bummed that we're not there because she is actually presenting. I don't know how she got.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, I have no reason to lie to you about this.
Oh my gosh.
And she she's presenting. It's a cause marketing blogging thing. And we mentioned last week that she was writing a book on Facebook, and that was not a joke. She has written like an ebook.
Oh, I thought that was a joke.
Yeah, no. I knew you did because you kind of blacked out last week for a little while.
Well,
you kind of tuned out, and I had a feeling you might have missed some things.
I heard you say that. I just thought it was
a joke.
I thought it was a reference to her saying lots of things on Facebook or something.
She sure does. She sure does. But no, she wrote this book. I think it's on using Facebook for cause marketing success because, she's into the cause marketing with the Cause Marketing Forum. And so she wrote this book, and I think she's part of a presentation team. And they're doing a presentation on cause marketing and social media, something like that. And so I wanted to get her on to talk about it. I mean, she may be literally standing in line to register at Blogger. Today is the kickoff day, I think. So many people are down there. It makes me a little bit crazy. I wish we were there. We should go next year. It's a great show. The last time I was there, it was a long time ago. And Ronald Moore was one of the keynote speakers.
Mm-hmm.
You know who the Ronald Moore is?
No, I don't.
He is the guy who did the Battlestar Galactica reboot.
Oh, interesting.
And so he was talking about using social media to get fan feedback as the show was running. And it was like season 2 of the show, and he was talking about kind of his experience using social media, Twitter, and interacting with the fan base through social media and how powerful that was, and to actually guide the direction of the show. I mean, he knew one of the things he said was when he started the show, when he pitched it, he knew how it was going to end. He knew it was like a 4-season operatic story arc, and he knew how it was going to end, but there were a lot of holes. And so while he had the first chapter and the last one, he used that 4-year kind of feedback loop with social media to inspire the direction of the show. I thought that was really cool.
It would be cool, Pete. I don't know how realistic this is, but it would be really cool to just set a calendar up, or go through a calendar of things like this event Megan's at and other, come up with a list of top couple, I guess, of like seminars or really worthwhile events like that, and try to make a goal to get to a couple of them.
I think our problem is not desire; it's awareness and execution.
And permission sometimes and budget, but
when you're fancy like Megan, you don't have to worry about this
kidding.
Because you've got the fancy and you've got your work for a mega corporation. And
life was cool when corporations paid the bill for things like that.
Oh, do you remember the W Hotel?
Yeah, I do.
Man.
Yeah, I loved that place. And then, there were a couple of times that I stayed down there that Castle didn't pay, I think, and I stayed at the is it a Sheraton? It's like the 3 towers that have the emerald neon green, top to them.
The City of Oz.
Yeah, but that's not that far from the W.
No.
So I'd walk over because they just have that super cool, like sandy beach bar, up on the, I guess, the second level. And it's just, the fires are going and you're in that, San Diego air.
It's the rooftop cabanas.
Yeah.
Oh, those are great.
You take your shoes off.
You're drinking mojitos, having business meetings in your suit and your bare feet. I love San Diego.
I do too.
Man. All right. Well, I want to try and call her and see if she'll give us like a 5-minute update from Blog World, and then we're going to talk about other stuff. So,
alrighty.
Hang on. So, Megan, I'm adding her to this call.
Sweet.
This may be a fool's errand. I don't even. It's dialing. Who knows? It's ringing. I'm not cutting any of this. Give her 3 rings, maybe 4. I can see her standing in line. She's fumbling with her phone.
Hi, it's Megan Strand. Thanks for calling. Please leave a message and I'll get right back with you. Thanks.
At the tone, please record your message.
Should we leave her a message?
When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Megan, this is the show calling, and we miss you, and we know you're standing in line right now, fumbling with your phone, wondering who's calling you. It's us, and we wanted to get your update from Blog World. So call us back, and we'll add you to the show, and we can talk about it. We're going to go talk about other stuff. Bye.
Take care. Brush your teeth and floss.
That's right. That's right. Call your mother.
Don't drink too much.
You know, I've been...
With the bloggers.
Can I tell you, are you up to speed on... Well, okay, here's what I want to talk about with you today.
Let's do it.
And I want to talk about... So we talk a lot about Google and AdWords and AdWords campaigns, but I want to talk about when you, as an online marketing professional, when you make the call to take a campaign to the other social networks like Facebook and LinkedIn. When is it useful and when is it not? That's what I want to know.
Well, and we do need to talk about that outside of the show, actually.
Yeah, I know. That's what inspired me to talk to you about this, because I feel like it's germane.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. Because you could certainly start. I mean, you don't have to say, let's start with Google and then we'll decide, if we want to go to the next level. You could certainly start by saying, well, is there something about what we're trying to, the people we're trying to target, or the message that we have that makes sense for other platforms? The problem is, and this is why this is why I kind of rarely have, sort of just start with all of them at once. It takes a whole lot of effort to get them going, and to manage them separately. And
that is the common misconception, right? I mean, okay, so I teach this marketing class, right? This is an MBA level marketing class, and we're building this campaign, and it's a fake campaign for a major corporation, and the students, they come to it as we're building the budget, the sort of channel marketing program, and they say, well, we're going to spend a lot of time in social media because it's so cheap and it's so easy to get going, but it is
right.
Neither cheap nor easy to get going, right?
Right. And even if you've got, there are things that make it easier, which would include having an entire team of people, or there's some really great software, like Marin software and some other platforms that I've never, had the budget to use, but some platforms that help you manage multiple PPC campaigns at once. They're not cheap. None of them are cheap. They're, you've got to be at pretty good volume to support purchasing and using that software. So I've been without that. So for me, it's generally, but even if you're using an agency with a full team, they still really only have limited, time and resources for your campaign. And I've used some before that are, with different clients they bring some expertise to the table, and they've got multiple people on it. But it takes a lot, to get all of those managed and working at peak efficiency. So one of the reasons that it generally makes sense to start with one, like Google AdWords, is that you work a lot of things out in understanding how far you can, how far can you take Google AdWords, for instance? What's your budget? What kind of return are you getting? What ads are working, and you learn a lot that I think is good to do before you start throwing a lot of money a lot of different places, because they're all very different animals anyways. And what you learn in a Google campaign may or may not translate to something like Facebook. It may or may not, but at least it establishes something. So to your initial question of when do you make the decision, one trigger point would be, gosh, we've pushed Google AdWords, as far as we think we can, or we've sort of hit a wall. We've got a point here that we're, without raising our cost per click, well above what we want to. We just don't seem to be getting a lot more traffic. We seem to be sort of milking this, which may or may not be true, because there's, the Google AdWords world is pretty big if you can really exploit all of it, like, the display ad network and great graphic ads and, your keyword terms and multiple campaign splits, there are things that you can do, but again, at a certain point, like how much time do you have to do all that? How many resources do you have? How worth it is that going to be? So it makes sense at a certain point, and there's no scientific, trigger or answer, I guess, to this. But
well, I think there's something to get to your time and budget point. It's not just about distribution of the ad message, right? I mean, there is something to what the audience demands out of their advertising on Facebook versus Google.
Yeah, it's a different world. And you shouldn't jump into Facebook without having some idea of at least a basic demographic. Like, I don't know, do you need it to be all females age, 20 to 30 or 20 to 25, who have an interest in, this or that? If it's too broad, then you need to question whether or not it makes sense. But if you feel like you can narrow down a college graduate or even advanced degree or something like that, an older working professional, for instance, who, and then maybe let's decide that a couple of books, if they have an interest in this book or have read this book, they become a pretty good target. The only issue there, and so it's really exciting when you start talking about how much you really can narrow that Facebook audience.
Well, right. I mean, you can't you have to underscore that you just sort of buried the lead on why you would actually use Facebook in the first place, that you have access to people at a level of their sort of, at the psychograph, that you cannot get with Google at this point.
Right. Yeah. And that's where they're different, right? Yeah. With Google, you can create a geography, if you need to. And from there, it's more or less, I mean, there are some things you can do to, there's negative keywords and there's networks you don't want to, or display networks you don't want to be on, or sites. You can weight a balance to, gender. I really have my doubts about how well that really plays out, but there are things you can do, I guess, to modify the demographic target with AdWords. But
there's a difference, though, right? Because with AdWords, and
you're not getting into interests.
No, you're not getting into, and the ads are an active response to an action by users, right? So when I'm on Google, I'm getting ads that are served by the search I'm using right now.
Yeah, so there's not the same reason to start to.
Exactly. Google, with Facebook, they're serving me ads based on, actions I took in my initial setup. And as my actions have evolved over time. So they're building a better, they're building a better case. But I guess what I'm getting to is there is a demand, first of all, have you ever, outside of the case of, you being in this field, have you ever actually, clicked on an ad in Facebook?
Yes, I have.
You have?
Yeah. I have.
Just because you're sort of scientifically interested in what's going on.
No.
That is fascinating to me. I have never done that. I've never clicked on an ad.
I have.
I'm a terrible target.
I'm somewhat, there's a little bit, like at a certain point, this isn't necessarily true of my profile today on Facebook, but at a certain point, I actually put interests on there with the thought that I wanted to get ads related to this area.
I think that's a good way to think about it, though.
Yeah. I mean, I was seeing things I didn't care for, and I thought, well, I haven't really put, interest that I could have put on here. And if I actually put things I'm interested in, then I'm going to be targeted for ads in that way. And so I get concert ads.
Oh, that's good. Because you put music and.
Yep. I get skiing, a lot of skiing stuff. I get longboarding. And those three things, if there's something that's of interest there, yes, I've absolutely clicked. I'll see ski deals. I'll see, things from ski resorts around the West. I see sometimes like longboard equipment that's interesting to me, or again, an upcoming concert or something like that. And I have no problem clicking on those. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay, well, this was actually my point. I derailed myself. My point is, inside of the Facebook ecosystem, there is a higher demand for brands to create content that is exclusive to the Facebook ecosystem. Would you say that's fair?
You're going to have to say it again. You lost me right at the very beginning of that.
It's because I used the word ecosystem?
No. It was
say
it again.
All right. When you're inside the Facebook ecosystem as an advertiser. It was.
Right.
Okay.
Throw me off. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'll snap my fingers and we'll come back. We'll do it again. When you're in as a
you can skip past ecosystem.
I feel like Colbert just broke character.
Okay. Go ahead, smart guy.
When you're looking at Facebook, when you're looking at the Facebook, and
bring it down to my level, dumb it down,
and you click on the button, what you're expecting is, what we've been conditioned to expect. I use conditioned, and that probably is on the list too.
Oh, stop it.
When you're conditioned to expect is that you're going to go to a Facebook page that has some investment in it, that has some creative to it, that might have some content that's exclusive to you, that you might get a thing that says like me and to get access to a coupon or something, right?
Yeah, and there are different approaches you can take. And there are, let's see, I'm trying to think if you can see this when you're a user or not, but there are two kinds of ads you can do with Facebook. One is to get you to your Facebook business page, and the other is to take you outside of Facebook to a website. There are two different kinds of ads. So I don't do a lot of liking because I'm going to get something out of it. I know it works in some cases, I guess. I don't know. Haven't done.
When do you like?
If I really like it. I mean, I don't want to like some plumbing outfit or whatever just because I might get a free T-shirt, for instance. But I can't think of a case where I've liked, in spite of your collection of plumbing get something out of something. Like I'll like it if I like it. I've never responded to, hey, you might get something if you like. Actually, I might have once. I think there was one that I did. And I think it was a T-shirt thing for a skateboard. Or it was like a skate company. But anyway, that was a while ago. Anyway, I'm not sure how well those continue to work. These sort of, where it looks a little bit gimmicky. I'm really just thinking, and you're right, there's something we're conditioned to. I mean, you're right. You're kind of thinking that it's going to be somehow contained within the Facebook ecosystem, and that, something about this, clicking on this ad is going to either you're going to be liking something, so it's going to change your profile a bit, or you're going to be joining some sort of community of some kind. That's
it. Okay, so I think there are three reasons you probably like, and I wonder if we should probably see if there's some data on this, right? You like because you have some sort of genuine relationship with the brand, right? So I like things related to bands, artists, musicians, writers, brands that I use and want to keep up to date. Books even. I want to stay up to date with the creator of that content, whether it's a company or a person or artist, whatever. So a genuine affinity, which is the most authentic, and it's what I look for. Like, I look for people to like my stuff as a photographer because it's genuine and they want to stay up to date, right? That's the best kind of lead I want. You like somebody or you like a brand because they're going to, only for informational purposes, right? So you might join, you might like NPR because you want to be on the feed and you live in Facebook, right? And that's how you want their stuff to show up on your page so you can stay up to date. And finally, you like for quid pro quo because there's some offer that they're going to give you access to some ebook or something if you like the page. Right. And so you're going to give up a little bit of your social currency in exchange for this bit of digital swag.
Which I think there was one. There was a DJ that I had to like on Facebook to get access to his MP3 downloads. So I did that. Figured that was an okay thing to do. but I become more and more hesitant to really, try to respond to those in ways that, because there are a few that you used to start getting a lot of messaging. That doesn't happen anymore. That's one, I don't know if you've changed this or anything, but when you stopped getting emails in your inbox every time somebody did something on Facebook that was part of a page you liked, or they're commenting on a picture or whatever, I don't get those in my inbox anymore. I've been pretty okay with that. But that was getting a little out of hand with some of the groups that I had liked. Yeah. There's a Salt Lake Longboarders, that all of a sudden it was like 3 a day. Hey, I'm going to be longboarding on this hill at, 2 p.m. Hey, here's a picture of my wreck last night. And I just didn't need to see that. So anyway, Some people, I'm sure, like you say, I mean, that's if you live on Facebook and that's part of your world and community and you want those messages. Yeah. Some of these are really, important perhaps to people. I was going to say though, in terms of, targeting and the fact that you can, use that sort of information, to think through sort of a target funnel to really go after people you think are going to be a great prospect or a great, potential customer or whatever, is that the more narrow you get, this is something to keep in mind, the more narrow you get, I mean, it's exciting that, you feel like you're really on it and these guys are going to respond, but you're going to burn out those eyeballs really fast if you don't have new creative coming at them. I mean, it's only going to be fresh for so long. They'll see those ads, and there are people who think that their ads should be changed several times a day, or every other day, or and it sort of depends on, I guess, how much you're paying, so how much traffic they're giving you. But you're paying per click. You can choose to pay per impression if you want to. Yeah. And if you're, and I think this is the other thing. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to sell Google AdWords as a branding element, I guess, even though it kind of can be. It has that, but it's hard to argue and say, well, boy, this is half the reason we're doing Google AdWords is branding. But it's not as hard with Facebook, just because the ads are larger and they're a little more obviously more targeted to an audience, and there's a very good likelihood that you're going to get a lot of rotation without getting clicks. So it's not a bad idea, I think, for certain advertisers to say they're not really looking for measurable performance as much as you normally would with a paid search campaign. They might just be looking for the branding exposure. Yeah. All right, hang on. Remember what you're talking about. I'm all done. Oh, well then this is perfect. I just got a text from Meg. Apparently she's finished with her thing, and so we can call her now. Oh man, this is going to be great. I know. Are you ready for this? Should we build this up in any way? I feel like we should, go into creative and maybe come up with a theme park edition. That'd be sweet.
Hello, Naked Marketers Hotline.
That's the kind of spirit I want for this show.
Perfect.
So are you all registered?
I'm all registered. I'm here sitting outside of Chris Brogan's Google Plus seminar waiting to begin in about 15 minutes.
Oh, very nice.
Very exciting. It's all very exciting.
Tell us where you are and what you're doing. Give us the lowdown.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I need an introduction. So I am in LA at the Blog World Expo, and I'm going to be presenting today.
What are you presenting on?
In the cause track.
The cause track. Thing. So it's going to be a lot of costuming.
There's not a lot of costuming because it's not the COZ track.
You're not going as Blood Rain?
I'm going to leave that to Dane.
I don't even know if he's here. Dane, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, good.
I heard him.
Oh, good. Well, I thought he did that thing again where he blacks out when you start talking.
That's not what it is. I had technical difficulties last week on so many levels.
Yeah, you did. It was you missed your meds.
No, I took my meds today, so I'm good to go.
All right, so Megan, let's talk about what you're presenting, because you wrote the book
on social media tools for cause marketing, and I'm co-presenting with two other people, and I just released a white paper today on cause marketing on Facebook, so I will be talking about Facebook in particular.
Well, what a
you should read my white paper. It's actually pretty cool.
I didn't even know you did this. We're going to put it in the show notes. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done. So you present this afternoon, and you're presenting with who are you presenting with? Nolan?
A guy named Nolan Hoshino, who is also from the Pacific Northwest, and then a guy named Joe Waters, who is from the East Coast, from Boston.
These are big names in the cause marketing
These
social
are big
media.
names in the cause marketing circles. Yes, you should be so lucky as to be able to meet these folks.
You apparently are. That's right.
So anyway, what have you guys been talking about? I feel like I'm missing out.
You are totally missing out. We've been talking about making the move from Google AdWords to Facebook and LinkedIn, although we haven't gotten to LinkedIn yet.
Google AdWords to Facebook ads?
Yeah, migrating ad platforms, and when does it make sense? What are the expectations of creative, and what are the things you need to think about? And so as a cause marketer, what is the utility of Facebook over, say, Google AdWords, in your opinion, as somebody who has officially written the book on cause marketing?
It's hardly the book. Well, I haven't dived too deep into the Facebook ads. However, I will say that any Facebook campaign that expects to get any sort of reach or engagement really does need to be supported by Facebook ads. In the cause space, we see this pretty often, and it does actually work. I had a great conversation with a woman from Timberland who they run this virtual trees campaign on Facebook, and they really like the Facebook platform in particular because they can target a younger demographic than what they are currently working with, and they do a lot of Facebook advertising. So they're kind of using that platform and that ad mechanism to get people more involved with their brand and involved with their cause program. So thumbs up on Facebook ads.
You just liked this conversation.
I just liked the conversation.
That's fantastic. I'm looking at this post that you put up on the Timber. This is the Timberland thing, right?
Oh, yeah,
at companiesandcauses.com, and we'll put this link to the show notes. It's an interesting story. Part of what I was coming to with this conversation with Dane is what are the expectations when you're as a consumer in the Facebook ecosystem? What are my expectations of what a brand is presenting me on Facebook? Now, when I think Timberland is a great example, because when you go to the Facebook page for this little screener that you have in here, it's inside Facebook, and they've put a lot of work into creating the Timberland ecosystem inside of Facebook. And that's an expense. That's an expense to manage. That's an expense to maintain. That's an expense to create. That is separate but equal to their general web presence. That might be supporting their external advertising. And so, I think it's a misconception to think that, we're going to use social media because it's cheap.
No, I think that's a huge misconception, because even if you're doing just a very basic Facebook application, just the resources required to staff and have a presence that is anything other than horrendous, you're spending some resources and some man hours to do that.
Did you have any conversation with them about what they spent to actually produce this campaign? Do you know?
I don't know exactly what they spent to produce a campaign. I know it was a lot. I mean, this is a pretty robust application they've got going on. In fact, I think it tends to be a little bit overdone. One of the things that I heard over and over when I was writing this white paper was about keeping things simple on Facebook, that people don't want to have to agree to 92 different permissions or get routed to 7 different pages or to do 22 clicks to be able to engage. So, I think erring on the side of simplicity is always a good idea, because, you get annoyed when you have things you have to fill out, or people are trying to take you off of Facebook when you're already in Facebook. I mean, there's all sorts of things to consider. So,
well, and
Dane? No, I'm just wondering, while we have you on the phone, if we're going to talk about Kim Kardashian's breakup at all. While you're down at
This is really what you think I add to the conversation is Kim Kardashian? Because I know nothing about her. Clearly, you know more than I do.
I think that goes without saying.
She just unfollowed Chris Humphreys.
She unfollowed
on
you?
Twitter. No, not me. No. We haven't established that connection yet.
That's what we like to call expanded circles. Extended circles in Google Plus, Lingo.
I just thought you'd have an opinion. I'm sorry. I mean, you're in LA. I don't know what people do at these blog conferences.
I don't either. It'll be interesting.
I figure they sit around and talk about Kim Kardashian.
Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm missing out on that. Maybe you need to school me, Dane, on what's happening with her so I can be up to speed at these parties.
Actually, to get up to speed, apparently Salman Rushdie did a kind of a Twitter haiku about Kim Kardashian's split. So that's probably worth looking up. Salman Rushdie. Somebody challenged him to do it.
There's a guy I would not expect to be up to speed on Kim Kardashian.
He knew the facts.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a funny little. Anyway, I'm just joking. You obviously
derailed. Let me just.
I know.
I want to talk about.
I only have a couple more minutes because I got to zip into the session.
Well, that's why I brought up Kim Kardashian.
I want to. Well, no, I just. I just want to know kind of what else you have. So you're talking this afternoon. What else is on the docket for Blog World Expo parties tonight? And when do you come back? Tomorrow?
I come back on Saturday.
You come back on Saturday. All right. So what else are you looking forward to doing at Blog World Expo? Do you have your little dance card ready?
I do not have a dance card. I'm excited to spend time with people that I don't get to see very often, like my co-presenters. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to just meeting some new folks and just seeing what this conference is all about. So I do not have any. I'm trying to keep my expectations very low and neutral. So I will certainly report back next week, however.
Excellent.
But you should, while you're there, just I don't know.
What should I do, Dane?
I don't know exactly what part of LA you're in, but there's a death museum that's right near the Sunset
Museum.
Yeah.
It's right next door to the Small World. It's a Small World exhibit at Disneyland.
No, I think it's not far from Jim Henson's, the Henson Productions. It's in that general area.
Okay.
So, or you don't have to do that. It's just a thought. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
I'm not going to lie to you. This has been a real treat. I'm
jealous, is what I am.
Megan, you say hi to all the people that are on our best friends list, and
I will, and I will certainly report back and meet up with you next week.
Yeah,
but it was good chatting with you boys.
Thanks for calling in. All right.
Okay.
Bye, Meg.
Guys.
See ya.
The Death Museum, really?
Well, it's an attraction.
That's a thing.
Pay money? Yes. It's only an LA thing. True. Look it up.
Okay.
It actually looks really way too morbid for me. I don't think.
The Museum of Death in Hollywood, California. That'd be museumofdeath.net. And it's open daily in Hollywood.
Uh-huh.
The world famous Museum of Death was founded in San Diego, June 1st, 1995. It was located in San Diego's first mortuary in a building once owned by Wyatt Earp. I don't really. They have a gallery, the Chaos Gallery. Haute Macabre presents Induced Epidemics on display between December 6th and December 29th. It's a little bit out of date. I can't believe you knew about this going into it. That's fascinating.
Yeah. No.
Here's the Gigi Allen Skull a Day campaign that's been going on.
No, they're serious about what they're doing down there.
Wow. Here's a word I never knew existed. Vestiges. Vestitches. Torture tapestries. Depictions of actual scenes of torture in some sort of a tapestry, or like a, what do they call it? Like a needlepoint. Needlepoint torture tapestries. That's what I'm looking at right now on chaosgallery.net. Museumofdeath.net. It's fascinating.
The kind of thing they don't have in every city.
Wow.
Anyway,
let's talk very quickly about the Google Plus. And there's an update on Google Plus. Are you how are you feeling about Google? You haven't been in there at all. You don't do it at all. I know you don't with the Twitter.
I do when you say to do it so that we could get on and have our chat areas, which I think is really very cool.
Well, you're talking about the Hangouts.
The Hangouts. That's pretty awesome. It's great technology. It's, it's an investment though to, talking about resources. I mean, I think you jumped all in. You saw technology you liked. You saw a community that was growing. You started, to really kind of embrace it, to learn about it, to engage, and you're consistent with your engagement. And now you've got a huge community of followers, and you've found that for, your photography, it's really the best place to grow your reputation and get feedback on your work. I mean, it sounds fantastic. I feel like,
it looks good on you.
I feel like I just hate doing something part of the way. And if, you got like your Twitter account and your Facebook and your this and that, and, and then just whatever. I mean, all these things you're kind of supposed to keep up on. Well, this is obviously the world of, like social networking and social marketing and social engagement. And it's, it's all good. But, I just worry about sort of, I mean, so I'm on Google Plus. I got a few folks I'm linked with, but I haven't engaged. And I think that I look at how actively you moved into that community, and I think, gee, I'm not ready to get that active. So do I need it? Or should I sort of go all in and wait for the moment that it makes sense to do that? Or, how much time do I have for this? I don't know.
All right. Are you using Chrome right now? Open Chrome.
Open, yeah.
Okay. Go to google.com.
Yes, sir.
I want you to search for do a barrel roll.
Wow.
Did it happen for you?
Yeah. What the heck?
I know, right?
That was sweet. How'd you know about that?
I just know things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
wow.
one of those
that's great,
fantastic things, right?
Wow, that was really cool.
That's them having fun with Chrome. There are lots of those little things, and I can't find. There was one I'm trying to find. It has something to do with gravity, and you do a search for Google and gravity, and on all the user interface elements of the website fall to the bottom. It's like the web page falls apart as if it were made of bricks and everything. And you can still use it. Like you can still search. It's an HTML5 thing. None of this is what I wanted to talk about. My whole point in talking about Google Plus at all is that I now have 2 accounts on Google Plus. This is big news. And I don't want 2 accounts. I have one account that was my old Gmail address. And that's the one that I, for the last, since the very beginning of the launch, when I got that first invite, I've been using that my Gmail address. And I've got lots of followers and community, and it's been really great. But the whole time I've been excited about having Google Apps, having Google Apps access, because I'm a Google Apps user. My rashpixel.com email address is a Google Apps user. It's Gmail, and I get, Calendar and Docs and all the great Google features, except for the longest time, I didn't have access to Google Plus. And last week, they released, they opened up access for Apps users like yourself. I think, right? Don't you have
sure.
Strike 10? So you could go turn on Google Plus in your administrative console and be able to have an account that's totally integrated. So you can log into your mail and then click on your little plus and jump right into your Google Plus and get all your emails in one place and not have multiple accounts to log into. And for people who are totally ADD like me, when I have way too many things open, I have to fight that. And I need quicker access to my own distractions. And having only one account is very helpful. The problem is they did not at the same time roll out any sort of migration. So, I can't just take all those followers who are following my old account and say, hey, look, now this is me. I'm now a different guy. I'm looked at as a different guy. And so they say that's coming in a matter of weeks. They're saying that's coming in a couple of weeks. But again, they said that Google Apps access was coming in a couple of weeks. It took them 3 months. So I am losing a little bit of sleep.
Well, as long as it works when it comes.
Yeah, here's hoping, right? Here's hoping. Unlike the Gmail app for iOS, did you see this came out yesterday?
I saw that it came out, but I didn't test it out.
I'm glad you didn't. Did you see? Have you seen the Firestorm? The Führer? Not the Führer. The Führer. Führer. How do you say that?
Not as a noun, but as a
not the Furor. Führer.
Führer.
Not der Führer. Führer.
Anyway.
German.
So no,
it's apparently terrible.
I saw a headline saying Google : we screwed up, something like that. I don't know. I don't know if they've actually admitted to screwing up, but I thought I saw a little headline for that.
Well, I love this. So it was a terrible thing. It was, you get it, you have it, it launches, it's buggy, it's terrible, it doesn't work at all. And what I love about this was MG Siegler he's a writer and a technology writer, and he had a scoop the other day, saying, unbelievable, my sources are telling me that there is a native Gmail app coming for iOS, and it's, quote, pretty fantastic, end quote. And so then it comes out, and it's terrible. Everybody wants a native app because Gmail has features that you can't get in your regular email client. You get the labels and all this filters and search, and it's just not as good. Gmail is not as good in the native iOS client. Well, good is maybe not the right word. It's not as interesting and not as full featured, not as thorough if you're used to working in the web app. And so his quote, MG Siegler, wrote a follow-up piece after it was, released by Google and then pulled within 2 hours because it was so terrible and buggy. And he writes, my sources are very good. Unfortunately, they apparently do not have very good taste. I thought that was brilliant. You don't think that was funny? I noticed you didn't laugh.
I'm just...
Delivery? I could work on that.
It's a good joke. Thanks for thanks for brightening my morning. It was a joke.
It was a terrible thing.
I was much more entertained by the barrel roll, but that was
well.
Insightful.
So at least I know where the bar is.
So a few things though with the new iOS. One, so apparently, and this is whatever. I don't know that it's killing me, but apparently it drains a little battery. So I don't know when that fix is coming, but
yeah, they say they just announced this morning, a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
5.0.1.
Because I really wondered why seemed like something was a little off with my battery usage.
Let me tell you. Can I tell you what I have a hypothesis.
Yeah.
iOS 5, and it's not, I'm seeing it on the iPhone 4s that I support and the 4Ss. So I don't think it's related to the new 4S. I think you're saying you have a 4, or do you have a 3?
No, I have a 4.
You have a 4
with iOS 5,
and you're having trouble with the battery. Okay, so what I think it is, it's for the first time, Apple has always been pretty played the location services pretty close to their chest,
right?
And now I think iOS 5 uses a lot more location stuff.
Aha.
And it's always pinging your location. It's always on. It's doing, and iCloud, in addition to that, if you have iCloud turned on and PhotoStream constantly pinging the server, these little antennas, there are a boatload of antennas inside the iPhone, and they're always on doing something.
That can't be good for cancer.
I don't think it is.
Recent studies
say that you're okay.
That you're okay.
You're more likely to get hit by a bus.
Yes.
But anyway, so I think that's what it is, and I think this fix will probably have something to do with how those little antennas are triggered for location updates.
And speaking of location services, I read something today about Google Maps wanting to charge for a certain level of corporate user.
Yeah, 25,000 API calls a day.
Right, exactly. And there are big clients like Apple, for instance, who are big API users because of their products. And the end of the article said something about, Apple hoping to reduce their reliance on Google Maps through the development of things like their location services.
Well, and they bought a new maps provider. right? They bought, I think,
few,
three.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 maps providers that they're integrating into their iOS division. I think that's really interesting. I think they're done. I think they're done with Google. I think they're after. Have you read any of the book? I know we talked about it a little bit last week. You didn't pick up the Steve Jobs book, right?
No, I'm still determining a format.
Well, that's gotta make you really
kind of strange.
flustered. I'm still working through it myself, and but there is a really interesting passage. I'm going to try and find it. This is why I like the iBooks version.
Aha. But do you read ever in bed, laying on your back with your iBook up above you?
Yeah.
I guess it builds muscle, right?
Yeah.
That gets heavy for me.
Well, you know.
I'm just not sure that that's the greatest reading experience.
No, it's actually.
For a big book.
It weighs, the iPad weighs less than this book. Like this 600 page. It's 600 pages of.
All right, I'm going to take my iPad over to Barnes and Noble, and I'm going to weigh it.
All right, weigh it.
I'd
like you to do that.
That'll solve this dilemma.
Here's a quote. Steve Jobs quote. Our lawsuit is saying, quote, Google, you effing ripped off the iPhone, wholesale ripped us off. Grand theft. I will spend my last dying breath if I need to, and I will spend every penny of Apple's $40 billion in the bank to right this wrong. I'm going to destroy Android because it's a stolen product. I'm willing to go to thermonuclear war on this. They are scared to death because they know they are guilty. Outside of search, Google's products, Android, Google Docs, are shite.
Yeah, no, I did.
I'm trying to maintain the clean rating by using my famous Irish pronunciation.
Right, you did
and
good.
I think that does it. That is a fantastic thing because I think he really believes that he didn't like the Google experience, and I think they were subservient to Maps for their mapping application, and I think have spent the last 4 years trying to right that wrong. And cut that partnership. Apple's not interested in those partnerships. They're not interested in partnerships at all. They're interested in shaking the dominant power vacuum, right? I mean, so many pundits say, Apple goes into these markets, because they see there's a hole and they're trying to fill this hole by developing a product that can deliver this service right. And I disagree with that. I think there's a part of that, but that's not the primary reason Apple goes into these markets. They go into these markets because they see a dominant power structure and they want to destroy it. That's what they do with phones, and that's what they're, I think, going to do with it. That's what they've certainly done with advertising. They're trying to do with advertising, and they try to do with media.
And another way of looking at it, or another angle on what you just said, that I don't think is different than what you just said, but it's, I don't know that it's quite another way of saying it. But part of what Apple does, I think, is you're referring to sort of a dominant power structure or whatever, a dominant power player. I think what you see play out isn't so much a desire to topple somebody, but if you see that powerful player is not serving the customer, or they're like there's a smartphone, but the phone companies are not allowing certain features to come into play that the public really would demand if they knew it was possible. So you go into it, so it's not the invention of something out of thin air, but it's the perfecting of something that exists in some way, but hasn't been fully utilized, and that may partly be because, like you're saying, some power player is kind of stifling the evolution or the innovation of it. Yeah. And that's happened time again. And that's why, I look at that comment from him, and it's kind of, obviously it's very passionate. It's always fun to hear him be really that passionate, because he's such a smart guy that there are many times you can look back on his quotes where he's predicting how a new Apple product will play out, and it sounds just purely arrogant, but it's spot on. Mm-hmm. His level of confidence in delivering things and knowing when he really thought he understood a vacuum or a need or, the power of a new product or a new technology or how things were going to work together. And he was reading, kind of the zeitgeist in a way, I guess, but he was so spot on with that when he gets really hardcore, you think, you got to listen. But it's hard for me in the world of, patents and copyrights and technologies and, because I think without being able to borrow and better something, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of how the Android may or may not be a complete copycat ripoff of the iPhone and how much that matters in legal, in a legal way. I think one ought to be, I think the competition ought to make them both better. And I think that's sort of, there's a certain level of borrowing that happens. And I get a little disappointed at an overuse of, lawsuits to protect intellectual property.
I get a lot disappointed in it. I guess this is where I tend to be a little bit more libertarian, right? It's that, the market actually will speak on this one.
Right.
The market will speak. If you make a better product, people will buy it, or not even, it doesn't even have to be a better or worse kind of discussion. It's just a choice. And there are products that suck.
And have you ever worked for somebody who is convinced that their business, either their product or their marketing approach or whatever, was all about their own unique genius, and that if anything was shared about it, it would be a big, like, sort of a breach of confidentiality or in a way that would like it couldn't get out. I mean, I've worked for people who took a borrowed idea, gave it a new term, and there was nothing new or unique about it, but they were convinced it was their competitive advantage when the execution of it was the only thing that mattered. Mm-hmm. Either you execute a simple service or you don't, but everybody has some variation on the same service.
Right.
You just have to execute. And for me, what ought to be considered intellectual property is, I'm not a lawyer, so my livelihood doesn't really depend on it in any way. I think the bar should be somewhat low. And I think that goes for things like music and sampling music. And, all these are very controversial. People have strong opinions sometimes about these things, but I do think that you need to feel free to innovate and improve and compete and execute and not exist in a world of, somebody created this, so they're the only people that can have, any sort of rights to anything that even looks similar to it or sounds similar to it, or, I think the whole history of the world is borrowed innovation and improving upon things that kind of exist. And there's a big argument, I think right now about, from several top technology companies about, how the things that will really be, that will dominate our lives from, say, a technology perspective in 5 or 10 years from now probably already exist.
Sure.
They probably have been invented. They just haven't found the right use. They haven't found the right audience. They haven't found the right vehicle for distribution, whatever.
Right. Well, it's okay. So I want to, there was a point we kind of derailed again, and there was a point about Apple that I want to go back to, right? This idea of these maps, and this is what relates to marketing, right? When you look at the original iOS Maps application, it used Google's map data, but it was, other than that, it was 100% Apple, right? Apple designed that app and plugged in Google's Maps data, even though Google also had an interface that they created that they could have used on the Apple app. Apple did not like, it's my understanding, the Google implementation, and so they were going to use their own. But where they are limited is they can't do the kind of advertising integration based on their current implementation, because I don't think Google allows them to add local maps sort of deals, the kind of Groupon kind of iAds deals that Google does in their own app. So when you search on Google, you can see where, based on Google Places, you can see things that are near you that might give you deals and make some advertising money. I think that's ultimately where Apple sees the next power vacuum in location. And that's probably why they want to have their own, 100% their own technology, in-source their map data so they can start doing more interesting things with it.
Where do you fall, Pete, on the idea that that Apple and the Macintosh computer, once upon a time, really, almost went out of existence because of their closed, their closed system, I guess, versus, Windows and IBM opening up their operating system and obviously, dominating the computer market because of that imbalance, I guess, the access, the programming access to create software and cheaper machines and that kind of thing. And now you see things like the iPhone or, Macs today. It's a very closed system. There are a lot of proprietary things about that are sort of encased in a product like the iPhone and the iPad, and Google is the regulator of it. And so you hear arguments coming up that, this will be the end. I mean, the Android obviously is going to beat the iPhone because it's a much more open system. And then I hear, but people don't like that because it doesn't have there isn't a feel of editorial, control and an easy way to browse apps. And so, and it's now so much easier to write for multiple platforms through, software that makes it easy to translate across platforms than it was before. What do you think? I mean, so you're talking here about a case where, app like Google has been a dominant force in the map, market or whatever it is. Apple, you wouldn't think would have enough of a head start to not rely on that technology, but they've got ideas about its use that, have them in such a critical role, I think, for mobile devices, speculation that they may want to just own it completely. I guess philosophically, what do you think the future holds for, things like, open systems that many people would say, didn't Apple learn their lesson? I mean, this is how they lost the last time, versus, have things changed enough that they're clearly playing it the right way and know what they're doing.
Wow, there are so many questions in that statement, right? I mean, that you just brought up a whole bunch of different stuff. For me, I think most of them boil down to the user experience, because I don't think the consumer cares. You look at the Android versus iPad. If you walk into an AT&T store and you watch the unaided customer sit side by side and look at and try to play with an Android tablet versus the iPad tablet in the state of the technology today, you're going to see people have a more intuitive experience with the iPad, and that is reflected in the overall sales performance of the iPad versus the Android tablets. The more sort of technological kind of geekery may end up toward the Android device because of the supposedly kind of open architecture of it. But I think ultimately the user experience is more of a defining factor than open versus closed, because I don't think the consumer knows what that means. And I don't think when we're using it here in this context, it doesn't actually mean what it actually means. Right. And you can, the fact that there is a well-curated, arguably, of course, well-curated marketplace on the iPad and several curated and some uncurated marketplaces in the Android ecosystem. And now we have things like the Kindle Fire, which is technically an Android device, but Amazon doesn't want to have anything to do with the Android brand name. I mean, we're seeing just more sort of fragmentation. And so ultimately this open closed thing doesn't matter. I mean, what matters is when you pick up the device, can you do what you want to do with it? So I go back to 9 years ago when I switched back to Apple products. I did so because I was so tired of having the technology get in the way of my work. And for me, that meant going to Apple because if I choose to, I can do every bit the hardcore sort of geeking that I want on my Macs. But I don't have to actually sit down and get stuff working. I don't have to worry about drivers. I don't have to worry about, configuration headaches that I had back in the day. So I made that choice. I don't think open and close necessarily is an argument that's
as relevant.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of it, I think, is that we aren't really as reliant on software as we used to be. It isn't so much a software suite that drives a product as, I know that's, when we're talking about apps on an iPhone, that's, I guess, a different story, but so much of what we do is in a cloud of some sort. It's online. It's not really that you can buy 20 versions of this software for this operating system, but only one version that does the same thing for this operating system. That kind of thing becomes so much less relevant. And to your point about user experience, one of the things that I really would get, I got touched actually by reading in some of the comments to some of the articles about Steve Jobs after his death. And you go through some of the comments. I read multiple comments from older people who said they were older and said, hey, it meant so much to me that at my age, I could pick up a computer and know how to use it. And I didn't have to feel dumb, or I could pick up an iPad or, what he gave me were products that I didn't feel stupid or weren't useless because I couldn't get over certain hurdles. I could use them intuitively. And thank you for that.
And do really powerful stuff with them.
Right.
I could do stuff that I couldn't do before, that I didn't know how to do before.
Yeah, I think user experience is I think
so.
That's
and to your point, this whole cloud thing, that's another one that's just it's an interesting kind of implementation of marketing, right? If you look at the sort of the direction of mobile apps, like there are really kind of two camps of cloud. There's sort of Google making a rich, robust mobile app experience, kind of HTML5 experience that you view technically in a browser or some sort of a browser wrapper, and you're actually interacting with an app that exists, in sort of on the net. It's on the server side, kind of running on the server. Versus more the Apple approach, which is, it's a local app, so you get all of the user interface elements that make it look flashy, and buttons that push and things that slide and things that look really fancy. Heretofore not able to be created in a mobile app that runs server side, but the data exists in the cloud, right? That's really what iCloud is all about. You use Pages, locally on your iOS device and on your computer, but the data ends up being stored. The documents end up being synced and stored in this cloud space that you can't actually use. I can't log into iWork.com and actually edit my document. I have to be using a local app on my device. And I think we're seeing more and more, with the development of HTML5 and these mobile web technologies, we're seeing kind of those two curves come to parity, where you'll be able to do more of the rich, server-side web apps with stuff that uses the power of your device. And so, that makes it really kind of a crapshoot for developers. Where do you skate when you don't know where the puck will be? And so this is, it's kind of a heavyweight shootout this now. And that's the one that I think is more interesting to me is when you're talking about user experience, the iPhone is a black glass shell that is made or broken by the developers that exist to write on it. Same thing with Android and Google. And they go about it in a completely different, antithetical to one another fashion. With Apple really making bank on the hardware, Google trying to do it on the back end through advertising and giving the operating system away. It's just a completely different way to do it. And watching how these two ecosystems thrive together, I think is really interesting. I don't like using Android, but I love watching it evolve because, every new edition, gives these really cool new features to developers to do amazing stuff with. And that just helps the overall, not to coin a phrase, ecosystem.
Not to overuse the
phrase. Exactly, not to overuse the phrase. All right, I don't know. I just went way heavy. I did. I'm sorry. I didn't even know how fired up I was about this stuff.
Well, good. Touched a nerve.
You did. I dare you to do that again. One more thing. Did you hear? This one's for you. Did you hear about number 23, the next Bond?
I mean, again, I've seen headlines, but not been interested enough to actually engage in the story.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. I love the franchise, and the last 2 movies have been, I think, the best of the whole franchise. But
well, they just announced
it's information. I don't want teasers. I want
no. It's just they just announced the title, Skyfall.
Okay, yeah, I'm not up on that one.
I'm pretty excited about it. That's just this morning. I'm pretty excited about it. I don't even want to. I'm
still
done.
Daniel Craig, right?
Yes, Daniel Craig, and let's see. According to Hollywood Reporter, Javier Bardem.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, he's so good. Ralph or Rafe? How do you pronounce this guy's name? I've heard it several ways. Ralph Fiennes, Albert Finney, Judi Dench, Ben Whishaw, and Sam Mendes directing.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I know. It looks really good.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's an interesting director choice. Javier Bardem, by the way, I mean, the first time I saw No Country for Old Men, I was a little disturbed by it, but I've watched it now several times, really just because of him. Not just because of him, but I think everyone did a great job, obviously, and I love the Coen brothers, but his character, I thought so creepy and so spooky and really just so psychotic the first time I watched it. But then there's humor in it. And I've heard an interview with him on, I think, Fresh Air where he talked about how he was directed by the Coen brothers and how they were just cracking up. And there were certain scenes where there was one scene, I guess, where he'd gone to I think it was the wife or the mom or somebody, and had some interaction, and and they were like, okay, now afterwards, just stare at her for an hour. And he was like, what are you talking about? And they'd just be kind of laughing. They'd be like, oh no, just trust us, just stare at her, let it be really uncomfortable. And they'd shoot things in this really strange way that they had a vision. I know we're really a bit off track, but it's worth going back to check out. Javier, you're the one that brought up James Bond.
I did, and you know what? I love Javier Bardem, and that movie weirded me out because it's one of those rare movies where I watch it for the performances, but ultimately I didn't really like the movie. I walked away from that movie kind of being underwhelmed, but I watch it again, particularly for his scene in the convenience store when he's talking to the guy about change.
Yeah,
it was great.
That one,
yeah. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and also the story of how he got his haircut. And apparently they just, when they arrived at the haircut for him, the Coen brothers just about hit the floor laughing. And they were like, that is it. That's perfect. And Javier was just this kind of confused, wow, really?
Yeah.
What's going on here? It's fun. It's a funny interview. You'll have to listen to it.
I will. I'll look for it.
Yeah.
All right. I think I've got nothing else. This was good. Good talk.
Yeah, when we start hitting Coen brothers and James Bond on the Naked Marketers, it's probably time to.
We've derailed. Yeah, we've worked.
I mean, if we had Megan, she would have cut this short.
I think she just hangs up.
She probably would have just hung up.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
Catch you next week.
We will.
All right.